Tell me what you see when you look at me. Do you see another brother lost in these streets looking for his soul?
Trying to find my soul.
Or do you see another brother searching for lost souls in these streets? A street soldier.
Street soldier.
Here to help you get that chip off your shoulder, warm your colder days and sober your drunken ways, and find a way to help you get over these hurdles placed in our path. And this is not meant to amuse you. This is for all those who have questions but are afraid to ask.
I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. No. When times get hard, you lose your way. Open your mind and hear what I say.
This is a message for the hard and the soft. To those who tune in weekly and to those who keep an eye out for 8 p.m. on Sundays and turn their radios off. The truth hurts. The cloth has been pulled. We're walking around half dead. Use this show as your IV. Alive and free is a new movement. We've achieved self-destruction. A street soldier promotes self-improvement.
Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah. Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah.
So to have the conversation we had established, and I back to Bree, who is now, she's 26 now, but then she was, 19, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So I had to get some breeze in the room, right? So where do I turn to but the young people that we have at Alive and Free Omega Boys Club? And so I have a number of them who have been saying, I want to come on the radio. I want to come on the radio. I want to come on the radio. They always say, I want to come on the radio. So I threw it out. Would you like to come on the radio? And 3 said yes. And another one, surprisingly, one of our collegians also said so. And so I was very fortunate to get them here, and we'll see how it goes. So why don't you each of you step to the mic and introduce yourselves? And go ahead. Don't be shy, because we're on the radio. We can't have dead air. So introduce yourself.
And you can come on this side as well.
And say your age.
Hello, everyone. My name is Khalesia Jordan. I attend the illustrious Clark Atlanta University, and I am 19 years old.
All right. Next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Messiah Edwards, and I'm a senior.
Hello, everyone.
Name? No, back. I need your age, baby.
Oh, I'm 17.
All right. See, Bree?
Hello, my name is Yvette Gorton. I am an Omega alumni, a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, and I am 47.
No. Yeah. I thought you were going to say you in college.
Now I'm setting this all up, right? I'm setting this all up.
All that drinking.
Yeah,
doing all that drinking and stuff as I was young, so I held my look.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Hello, my name is Bobby Brown, 22 years old, from San Jose.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, my name is Nia. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a senior.
And where?
Oh, and I go to Stern High School.
Thank you, dear. And Larry, you are?
Age, I'm late 20s.
That's how you can tell when you get no. You don't want to say it. That's how.
Yeah. But I will say that life is beautiful, and as a comedian, I still feel young at heart.
So your age?
Okay.
He said late 20s.
No,
late 20s.
No, he can say that. They get to, no.
Is it 29?
Late
Hey, Qual, how old are you, brother?
Mike, man.
Okay. How big?
Kwame Conde, San Jose State alumni. Now I'm African, so my age varies. So depending on the paperwork, but we'll just say 30. I'm 31. Yeah, so I'm 31. I ain't going. A little gray hair ain't hurt nobody. So yeah. Larry's 29. He doesn't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I said it.
And you will be 30 this year.
Oh, at the end of the year.
Still.
Q-U-A-M. Q-U-A-M. My name's Cameron. I'm in the same boat as Bree. I'm going to be 27 this year.
All right. Okay. Ann, do you want to get in on this?
Oh, God, no. Wait, what were we doing? My name is Ann, and I'm a Scorpio. That's good enough, right? That's good enough? All right. I am in my 30s, and I'm loving it. I stopped counting, to be honest. Yeah, It was good. I'm enjoying life. I am so happy. I am a mom, and she is keeping me young. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. All right.
Okay. So for Lady Estelle and I, of course, we will not say, but let me just say this. For the purposes of this conversation.
My hair is gray.
And I ain't got none. So therefore, not enough to get what y'all got. Well, I cut that. My daddy taught me when it gets gray, just cut it. You don't have to worry about it. So for the purpose of this conversation, we will be the grandparents. Okay.
Okay.
And can I ask you, Miss Gordon, Yvette Gordon, who will make her the mom in this group, okay? Because I think, especially since she has a daughter here, she will be the mom, right? And then
I'll be the auntie.
Well, you'll be for the generation's sake. So we have generations. We have grandparents. We have parents. None of you are parents in here, right? Others, right? So then you'll be the older, and we got people in their 30s. And we have people in their 20s, and we have people in their teens, right? So it kind of fits, right? So it kind of fits for the purpose of this discussion. And those of you listening at home, I want you to think of the intergenerational conversations that you would have. So the way I would start this is, anybody knows me, and I talk about it every year. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I love Thanksgiving so much is that is the one time of the year I get to see all the generations in my family. It's wonderful. It is really wonderful. And I'm very, very lucky. In my family, you hear the words, not only mom and dad, not only granddad and grandmom, you hear great-granddad.
Whoa.
And great-grandmother. And so when we all get in the same room, number one, it's crazy, but number two, it's wonderful because we have all this family and whatever generations bring to family in the same room. And obviously, depending on the year that you go, you get more or less out of the greats, because of how they feel, right? And how their health is. And sometimes it's just great to just have them be there. So overall, the years, in my family, it's gone from, probably great now is, where he used to be, because great-grandmother is no longer here. Great-grandfather is here, and it's gone from him being very, very active to just sitting and chilling and watching, and, but he's there, right? So I probably have been in that kind of situation all my life. I can remember being little, very little, and the parents and the grandparents, I don't know if they even do this anymore, being downstairs, and this is downstairs in the room, and I'm upstairs, and they in there, they doing whatever they do, talking, socializing, and me trying to listen to everything that they're doing. So I grew up in that kind of environment. I was very, 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 I think, I wouldn't have traded for anything, but that's my situation. How would you describe yours in your family? Do you have that kind of, how far does it go with you?
Well, when I want to say around 2 or 3, my great-grandma was still alive, and then she passed when I was around 5 or 6. I've only met her once, so that was the only time I ever had an encounter with her. But now it just stops at my grandma and my grandpa. But I remember that time you're talking about, Doc, when, you have family functions, Thanksgiving or Christmas, and, as the younger person in the family and my other cousins, we'll be downstairs playing, and then upstairs will be the adults and everybody chit-chatting. You can't go up there because they're talking about adult stuff. You're not an adult, so they'll just put you downstairs. But now that I am adult, I am in the adult conversation, so it feels good to be in the adult conversation. But yeah, so
That's how it is.
What about you?
I wish I had y'all family experience. I don't. I never really had that. Destruction of the black family and an immigrant family. So I just didn't really have that experience.
Okay, Bobby, you want to talk about yours?
So my abuelita's mom she died at like 90 something, like 95 or something like that. I thought that was awesome.
It is.
And my grandmother just passed away like a few years ago. And they just getting together, making good food, having the music, dancing, feeling each other's vibes, telling stories, giving information, teaching each other things. That's the beauty of it.
Messiah?
Growing up, all the children would go upstairs. We would dance, perform downstairs, and then all the children would be like, "Mom, look at this. Mom, look at that." And then they would send us back upstairs. So that was pretty much my childhood and ongoing childhood.
So did it go, how did it go, did you have the greats, or was it just grandmother, or how far did it go, if you can remember at times, or how is it now?
Oh, so right now I'm blessed enough to still have my great-grandparents.
Oh, wow. That is, did you ever, I'm just curious, did anybody ever in here, and I'll get to all of you, anybody ever try to do the family tree thing? I mean, literally, like, sit down, before Ancestry.com and all of that, right? Sit down and do the connections and so on. And did you do that?
My auntie does that. So she traced it back all the way to, she's stopped at Africa. So she knows like Louisiana before the Great Migration. So she knows all of that gratefully.
Wow. Okay. All right. I got a brother that does that. He's nuts. I mean, he's just like, no, my brother's a historian. He's like family history. He's like Alex Haley in the family.
Wow.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I do still have my great-grandparents, and I do have my grandparents. My great-grandma just turned 86, and she has to be the most happiest living being alive, and it's just great.
When it comes to family functions, like they say, kids, stay together, mind y'all business, stay in y'all place, and yeah, that was really it.
Well, of course, me growing up, I'm not too far from Dr. Marshall and Mr. Stale, but it was those days.
Oh, girl,
well, as far as the separation of the families, me growing up, it was amazing. I had both my grandparents still around, and family events. You look forward to that. Back when I was growing up, you had the opportunity going to grandma's house in the eve after school. You go to grandma's house after school, everybody is there. You're liable to see all your cousins within a week. But now today, the way the families are broken up, you don't have that opportunity. And I think that's a sad thing that goes on within our families and our society today. That family togetherness is not there unless it's those special days.
Yeah.
But it was great growing up. I miss those days. I wish I can go back to them. And then just for the kids to get to see what family really means.
And that might be one of the topics that comes up in the intergenerational thing. So you want to get in and say your experience?
Well, my experience is a little different. Living in Africa, so I was kind of young, wasn't really aware, but I would say for me it was more like a village raising me, because literally, where I stayed, it was just a lot of family around. But then when I moved back to America, then as far as blood relatives, it's kind of like most of the Nigerians out here, most of us know each other. So whatever, Thanksgiving, Christmas, holiday, somebody getting married, somebody has a baby naming ceremony, everybody and their mama comes out. So it's kind of like everybody's your auntie, everybody's your uncle, everybody, and they always say, I always remember you when you were like this big. And you're like, fam, I don't remember that, but for sure. And so it's crazy now that all the kids, when I was like somewhat older in my 20s, and I seen the little kid just playing whatever, PlayStation, Nintendo, doing all that, and now they are adults and 21 and 22, and I'm like, bro, I remember you was like this big, and they don't want to listen to me. But I will say, as far as the intimacy of just being around family, the phone is not helping. Like the phone is just now, when everybody's on their phone, everybody's like your left hand, your right hand. The phone is not helping. I mean, it's a good thing because I get to see family from back in Africa and Australia and the UK, everywhere. But as far as, really making a bond with people, yeah, we don't have that anymore. Like, we take it for granted. We really definitely take it for granted because, you just want to see what's popping on social media, But yeah, that's from, my experience.
Oh, oof. Okay, we got one more, and then we got to go to break, right? Okay.
Oh yeah, well, growing up, we always during Thanksgiving and during Christmas, we always had the kids table. And now that all the kids are adults, they used to have us sit at the kids table still, but then they finally let us sit with the adults. It didn't matter how old we were. So we had that dynamic. And then growing up, I didn't have only had 2 grandparents. So they actually died when I was super young. So I wasn't able to really fully experience all of that. But I was able, my dad would be able to call them, and then he'd always pass me the phone when I was young. But we'd have that connection there. And then growing up, we had our family friends that were raised with us, and then we called them our cousins because a lot of our other family, our blood family, was spread out everywhere else, and they weren't always around.
Okay. Wow, I can't wait to get to the rest of it. We got to go to break. We set it up, but we'll be back with the intergenerational family discussion.
Yeah, it's going down.
Look, y'all think y'all know how to party? Go to Nigeria. Go to Africa. Dan, that's where Dan started. I'm sorry, we're back. I'm sorry. It was a conversation.
We are back.
We're back. We're back. All right. We're having a intergenerational conversation here in the studios now on Street Soldiers, and we've sort of established in our own families what the intergenerations have been for all of us. I have a question before I get into, and I heard a lot of grandmothers, I heard some greats. Did any of you in here ever sit down and have an extended historical conversation with any of your greats?
So I continuously try, but my grandma doesn't speak English, so it's really hard to you know what I mean? She only speaks Spanish, so it's just like going back and forth with her. It's like
I can relate.
Yeah. So it's like I try my hardest all the time, but it's just impossible. The closest thing I got is my uncle that y'all met. That's the closest thing I could get to knowing about my black side. Yeah.
I had the great fortune. One day I just sat down with especially as my grandmother was getting up in age, and let me just say, in the room, just so, and we're gonna give you an idea how long Estelle and I have been around. Just in the room, the collective history probably just for you goes. I'm gonna be nice about it and say, let's say civil rights movement right here, boom, in the room. So when you hear about Dr. King and Malcolm X and all of that,
you was at the march.
We wasn't at the march, but we were watching on TV. Okay, let's put it like that. So we got that. So we got that. And if I go back further, and this is because of the conversations I had with my parents and my grandparents, and I remember sitting down with my grandmother, who was born in a little place called St. Joe, Louisiana. Then raised my dad in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And she was born, get this now, when I throw this date out, y'all don't go crazy, in 1907, right? So I'm sitting down talking to my grandmother, and I just asked her to tell me what it was like growing up. And if you haven't done it, I'm telling all you, if you can get it, I don't care when they was born. I don't care if it was 1940, 50, 60, 70, get that recorded history. If you can't record it, just get it in you, right?
Griot.
Because the griot, right? Exactly, because we didn't write stuff down back then. We had the conversations with it. Then the stuff I learned from her, she used the phrase with me, and I used it. It became the club motto. If you knew what I knew, you wouldn't do what you do, right?
Oh.
And so the big thing was, well, what did she knew that I didn't know, and that all became a part of me. So when I read about things that black folks went through, I read about segregation and the Ku Klux Klan and all of that, I had firsthand tales, and there's nothing like firsthand information, because somebody will tell you that didn't happen. No, my grandmother told me. What do you mean it didn't happen? I remember running down the street from, and them people like, so that filtered everything with me. And if you haven't done that, do it. just pick the older one out in your family and just have that conversation, because that's family history. But family history is our history, right? So your great grand whoever it is probably has the same kind of things to say.
I was going to say, I'm reading this book currently. It's called Family Wealth, How to Build Intergenerational Wealth and, extend it for 150 years to come. And they say one of the number one things to get generational wealth in your family is to have open dialogue and transparency with all members and try to get to the highest level of intellectual, not just money, it's also intellectual assets and stuff like that. So the book, it's an interesting book. It's deep. But what you're saying is exactly what you need.
I'm saying all the listeners do the same thing. Because when they're gone, you can't get that history. You can't get that. And that's your family, right? But it's also the diaspora family or whatever they're part of. And we didn't get, Lady Estelle, you did not get a chance to say your family generational piece.
Well, I'm as old as you almost. He's older than I am, by the way.
I'm gonna let you say that.
So it was the same. I mean, Grandma, and I'm gonna go back. Grandma and Grandpa were there. Mother and Daddy and uncles and aunties and all the cousins and kids, and we'd get together for those special occasions, and kind of like you, it didn't necessarily need a special occasion. Graduation, especially if one of the cousins barely graduated, then we'd all get together. If somebody, we had that too. Anybody that had a baby, everybody would be at the hospital. Oh my goodness, there would be a phone call. Yeah. All right, she's on her way to the hospital. And by the time you arrived, everybody would be there waiting in the lobby, praying us through.
That's powerful.
And so, it was really something to see Grandma and Grandpa every day, all the time. I used to live next door to my grandmother. And I say grandmother, but that's grandma for me. And my grandmother was like Medea. She wore an apron all the time, and she had a pistol in her pocket.
Hey.
I mean, and so the stories. And for the holidays, I don't remember if it was a kid table, but we were all in the same room. And we knew what we better not do.
Because someone had a pistol.
Well, no,
I'm just kidding.
She didn't have the pistol for us. But I remember, so here's the story that I could. Now I remember because I lived next door, and I said, Grandma, the door, I'm grown, right? It was my house. I said, Grandma, my door is unlocked. It's open. She said, wait a minute, baby, let me get my pistol. All right. She said, like Medea, wait a minute. She said, you stay right. She didn't say here. She said, you stay right chair.
Chair.
You stay right chair. I'll be back. And she had her pistol, I'm serious, in her pocket. And she walked around out of her gate, and my grandmother collected whatnots. It was like a whole lot of people. I mean, she walked around, and she came back. She said, all right, baby, it's all right. You go home now. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Grandma. Anyway.
We don't know what happened to this day.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is she didn't have to worry. No more.
Anyway.
Not more. Mo.
But I'm going to tell you, the wisdom, the power, the love, the guidance, the stories that came from Grandma. And then it came down, then I get to be the grandma. For real. You just don't forget that, and you give that, you share that, you do that.
One, I'm going to say the more things change, the more things stay the same. And then the second phrase I'm going to throw out, there's nothing new under the sun.
Ecclesiastes.
But that's not true. But it is true. So probably the easiest thing to begin with is with these generations, just in the room, in our collective memories that at least I have, it goes back easily, I will say, at this point I could say over a century, just the memories I have and the stories that I've heard. What's changed? What's changed? And probably just from, and I'll begin with media, I'm thinking of my grandmother, 1907. Now, 1907, there weren't even no airplanes.
Oh wow.
I mean, just think about that. I mean, from my grandmother's perspective, right? There wasn't any airplanes. So, in 100 years, more happened technologically than it happened in all the centuries before then, right? The 20th century was really like boom, and you know, just from her perspective. So I remember her telling me like. It's funny when all that stuff started happening, and you know she did radios and TV, and like she had the little bitty TVs, and you know with 3 channels and all of that. It took her. It was like a sense of wonder, right? And I often think about my grandma. If my grandmother was living today, and looked at one of these things, she'd be like, she called me Junior. Junior, what the heck? You know, I mean, there's been so much that is changed and continually changing, and the question is, you know, is it for the better? Is it for the worse? You know, how much does it change his lives? Is because it's different. It's just different for her, and for me, it's way different. And I've seen a lot of change just in my time. I've seen a lot of change. I've seen when I first met her. Let me tell you how crazy it is. When did I first meet you? All right, it had to be what year? Like
1980. Ooh.
88, 89,
88,
89, right? And that's not how many years did that? Last night, 30? Is that 31 years ago?
Because that's when you were born.
Let me tell you. You know, now when I met her, and how old were you then, baby?
I was 16.
16. Okay, now get this. They was using pagers. Y'all remember pagers?
Yeah, I remember pagers.
PageNet.
I got the hookup.
You could write a whole book. It's literally, you could write a thesis. A thesis. That's how much things have changed. You could call a thesis from pages to iPhones. I mean, this just that. And just watching that and the effect the effect it has had and it's funny. One of the first things you said early on was when you got here was said stay off of the phone. That in itself has changed the nature of the generations.
Yes, definitely.
And why do you say that?
Just today, the phone, it is. I like cell phones, but I can't stand it. Because when it comes to communication and communicating with one another, there is a lack of. As the young man stated, the brother stated initially, when you're with family, they're not talking to each other. I go to family functions and everybody is inside their phones. To the point I said, the next family function we have, let's confiscate all the phones. Because put them in a basket. Because they don't even know each other. How do you not know who your cousin is and you see them every year, 2 or 3 times out the year, but you have no form of communication? Take the phone away. Sit down and have a conversation. Get to know one another by opening up your mouth and asking questions personally. Using the phone, you're texting and things of that sort, you can interpret a text in so many ways. And it can become a problem because you're not really understanding.
Yeah.
So if we move away from the aspects of the phone and go back to the old days of talking to one another, I think it'll bring a change and bridge the gap of the communication and the families as well as friends that one another have.
I just put that, a family function and the people aren't what? Talking to each other. That's really something.
Quan wanted to hop in on that.
Jump in, man. Because see, now you add a whole another element because you're back to the motherland, which is like, yeah.
Well, I would say just being African is definitely a lot of respect. You have to have a lot of respect when anybody, if you visually could tell somebody's older than you or born before you, they automatically you get that respect, and that's instilled from you in a young age. And the same thing in African American, but I think a little bit. It comes the culture. It's getting a little diluted. And going back to to add to what she was saying, it's the process we're missing because everything is done so quick. Now you could just FaceTime somebody in a different country, a different continent, but the process of even take it to 80s, 90s. We used to, when I had to call fam back home to check on my dad, I had to call collect card, had to buy it, had to put in the numbers, had to put in the code just for that person to be like, oh, you don't have any more time on that card. So everything the process was exactly. When the process was harder, it wasn't convenient, it meant more. But when you get something so quickly, so that's why, you have these young kids like me being an 88 baby. I remember we didn't have Wi-Fi in my high school. I had the big old CD players in my back pocket and trying to do all that. But I was able to, when I socialized, I remember actually going up to people and meeting them and talking, and getting girls' numbers with the phone on the paper. But now to these 90s babies in the 2000s. You did that too. Had to use a little boligrapher, good pen, had a sharp pen, you know what I'm saying? But now it's social media.
Number, that's can I have the number, put the number right here. Put it in your phone. Put it in your phone.
Yeah, you have to be smooth. You have to have it ready. You can't be like, go get my pen and paper. You can't do that. You messed up.
You can't be looking. I'm sorry, brother.
They usually wrote it down for me.
Don't skip the process, brother. Don't skip it. But just being social, and so now for me in my fraternity, I feel we have a problem with that. Just fraternities and sororities, because it's a stronger bond. But now nobody has those tools where sit down and really get to know somebody. From, let's say I went to San Jose State. I got brothers from SF, from Davis to Sacramento to Fresno to LA, all types of stuff. Before, when I came in, I knew everybody. They weren't just my frat brothers. We were actually friends. Like, it was I know you. I've done a lot of these people's weddings, but now I'm just looking at it. Nobody really wants to interact. It's because you look on. I gotta look at your social media. You're not cool enough just because I saw you on IG. You're not flexing hard enough. So the process, you judging somebody off of a false claim or whatever you see them on IG. So it's hard to go up and how you doing. Now I'm pretty sure the young folks, you talk to somebody, hey, how you doing? They're like, you just come at me, bro. I don't even know you like that.
Yeah, dude.
Let me check your IG. Let me check you out. Let me see how many likes you got, how many followers. So that we're missing out on that part. You gonna judge somebody?
I had someone their name. They went crazy on me. I was like, oh, okay.
It's like a credit score. It's like the IG is like a credit score.
I know, Rena. I don't want to know about this stuff.
Yeah, this is what you have to do. That's your resume. So people, even if somebody has, but we don't go off potential. We want it done. We're not trying to build nothing. We don't want to. We want the furniture made and installed. We don't want to pick it up from IKEA and have to do the tools. We want it delivered, installed, bam. That's what we do.
Yeah, and I feel like being a 2000 baby, what's really interesting about that is that you could see something on Instagram and it'd be a catfish. Their whole life could be a catfish. That's why I try to stay off of Instagram. It's hard though. It's really hard though. You see something, you want to buy it. You see something, you want to go somewhere. So, but like growing up, I grew up to where the first thing I want to do is get out the house, play in the, if it's hot outside, somebody break the fire hydrant, we play in the street with the water, build a tree house, whatever we could do. And then my sister, when she wake up, she just want to go on YouTube. And I'm just like, you don't really understand, like, you're not going to be able to live my childhood. Like, I feel like my childhood was the last childhood to where you could really get out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a heavy statement. Are you kidding?
No, I'm serious.
Really? The last childhood?
Yeah.
Where you go outside and play with people. Go ahead. Get to the mic, y'all. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. And you're 22. Yeah.
Yeah, I can add to that. We were outside playing squish and watermelon tag, Foursquare, tetherball, all the sports. Yep. I remember my granddad, I used to play every Tuesday. He used to play basketball. That's why I got into the sport. But it's just, we're just out here being active. Just do it.
Yeah, we was born where the first iPhone 1 was like being made. In the mud.
Yeah, like I remember if we talking about playing outside, I used to love it. I used to love I mean, because I'm outside all the time. I play soccer. So I'm outside. I don't love playing outside no more because I'm always with a ball between my feet. But I'm just saying, playing outside, playing kickball with all my brothers and my sisters and playing hide and go seek in the neighborhood. And you're trying to hide behind people's houses because there's nowhere to hide or under somebody's car. So it's always fun. And also, like, being told, stop going in and out my house. You can be in or you can be out. So I was always fun. But yeah.
Now you can't get them outside.
See, y'all don't know nothing about that being in the house before the street lights turn on, do you?
And so that's, I guess, I know all of that, right? Do those things still work? I'm curious.
No, there's no outside.
Because we're on the phone.
No, but those, you're right, there's no outside. But those sort of directives, commands, from the generation, from the parents, from the grandparents, from the other people? Do those things still have effect? We continue with our intergenerational conversation here on the Live and Free Radio Street Soldiers. And by the way, you're hearing it probably from the perspective, obviously, of the folks who are in the room. But we could be talking about anybody's family, anybody's culture, anybody. I mean, I could be doing this, having this conversation in Taiwan. I could be having this conversation in France. I could have this conversation because Colombia, absolutely, anywhere. So I urge you, have these, and it's wonderful when you get everybody in the room and have these conversations. And I don't think it's done very often. And let me open it up to anyone who wants to call in and just throw in what you got. 800-SOLDIER, 800-SOLDIER, 800-765-3437. You want to comment or throw your family history in and so on and so forth. I'm going to throw one in that I grew up on, and I remember when I saw it begin to change. And when I was a young person, everybody was your parent. I mean, you could be disciplined literally and figuratively by anybody in the community. I know this happened to me, and
that's important. I think that needs.
I'm gonna just tell you what it was like. So here I am, trying to do my little dirt, and this is true. This is a true story. My daddy catches me, and my thing was, fooling around with the little gang members in L.A. And he found me, and the jumping out you get from your father is way more than the jumping you get from the homies, right? But then I'm saying I ain't gonna do it around you. So I'm trying, I'm in L.A. trying to do my thing. I swear, and I tell this as a story. I tell it like this. It seemed like my parents were all over Los Angeles, but it wasn't my parents. And usually I get this story from people who are raised in the South, but they all acted like they were my parents. So they would, and then they disciplined me and then bring me home to my parents, and I catch some more. So I always say that. I turned out the way I am not because of my friends or my peers. It was because of the adults who literally treated me like their own kids. And I remember when I first saw that go out, and this was in my teaching career, when, I saw people like, you can't touch my child. I remember very clearly when that changed. And I'm saying probably I started teaching in 70. That was my first year, 4-year teaching, right? And then, I saw it start to change. I told you I've been around a long time. Saw it change, and then it was like a parent came in and said, well, these are our kids. And, certainly you can understand that coming from the village concept. And then I said to her, well, you better do the job, because if you don't, I am. I was like that crazy. Ooh. I did, because obviously there was something going on. And so that community aspect just started to wither. And of course, when drugs hit, here's another one. When I was coming up, I use this a lot when I talk to people. I never had a kid I didn't have a friend in a group home. In fact, I remember a group home.
Wow.
I remember group home. Yeah, I remember group home. And I don't remember nobody in foster care. And people visited their grandmas. They didn't live with their grandmas. Yeah. So these are things just I saw. And here's another one I've heard, and then you can all jump in here. I've heard people say, people used to respect their
elders.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So growing up, I didn't want to be friends with nobody that didn't respect their mother. Like, I just seen it as, if you treat them like that, how you gonna treat me? So I don't want to be friends with you. If you could disrespect your mommy, who knows what she gonna try to do to me?
Well, just to add, I think it's about trust, and in the black community, you just don't trust each other. Before, like I just said, when I compare it to being Nigerian, if I find out somebody's Nigerian, I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's instant, like, I already know you, but I don't know you, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Like fraternity brothers, if I don't know you a Sigma, I know you, but I don't know you. that's different now. There's no trust. You said at one point it was different. You know, you went to go visit the grandma, but now you stand with the grandma. And I think I forgot what age when it came to. I found out like, oh, when you look at the hours you go to school, you spend more time at school than you spend with your parents. So now, what do students do? What do children do? They're on IG a lot. So pop culture right now is making a bigger impact, bigger influence on the children. So going back to the Bad Baby and all that stuff, it's like that's the new drug is the the likes. You put up a picture, a story, or something on IG, nobody likes it. You're gonna be like, you don't feel some type of way, like people don't like me. Now, the more stuff you do to become viral, it becomes addicting. That's the new. We don't want to talk about it, but social media is the new drug. Everybody loves that attention, so you don't care about the structure. You're just doing this, especially at a kid, elementary school, middle school, high school, whatever. You're trying to find your identity. You're going to do whatever it takes. And talking about black folks, the structure's not there. You don't trust people. You see another black person, huh? I think the worst of you, I don't think the best of you. West.
Going back to disciplining and respecting parents. When I was younger, I went to one public school, and it was Charles Drew. I remember my mother; she worked there, and we had a family friend who I call my auntie. Any adult was allowed to whoop me, put me on punishment, give me anything because they knew my mother. And it wasn't just, just to do it. No, it was because they were teaching me how to be a young child, but still be respectful. And so even when I grew up, it wasn't me getting in trouble by my mom. It was my godmom, my grandparents, anybody I would see in the previous week or in the week after or whatever. Like I was there, I was getting different types of punishments, getting different views on like how you should go about your day or how you should act as a young one. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
I believe that lack of respect is also coming in from the parents. The parents are too busy out here trying to be their kids' friends. Stop trying to be their friends and be their parent. Give them the guidance that they need, the direction that they need in life. When I was growing up, we would be on the back of the bus. We wouldn't be on the back of the bus cussing. Right. You would go in Walgreens. You wouldn't be in Walgreens in the line cussing because you would see an elder person there. But I think that's the main issue is parents are too busy trying to be friends. I'm not your friend. I'm your mother first, and then I'm your friend. And you're going to respect me as you respect all adults around you. And teachers, they deserve the utmost respect. They spend more time with you, as he said, than your parents do a day. So I think it comes a time where the parents need to start taking some accountability for the way they're raising their children.
So I'm going to throw one in on the parents' side. And this is old school again. That's why we use these phrases, old school and new school. When I was growing up, and from my grandmother, children were a gift from God. That's how they looked at the kids. Literally, the gift from God. I have heard in all my years, parents were like, you just messed up my life. No, I haven't heard that. I mean, like they far from a gift from God. Now I got to deal with you, and you messing with my life, right? So you interrupted what I was trying to do, and that message to me has been is communicated to so many from the time they're born. So the whole sacredness thing. Now remember, none of this was perfect because we're in slavery, right? And but the whole sacredness of parenting, sacredness of life, the sacredness of you, the sacredness of children, like God gave me to you, gave you to me, and I'm gonna do whatever it is to take you. And I don't know when that changed. I'm still trying to figure out when that changed, but I saw it, and I've heard it from them. Yeah, because that's a hard thing to say, right? I can't wait till you get to be
18.
Yeah,
and get
but
out
they've
the
been
house.
saying that. Because if you go back to family, that's where it all begins. Yeah. And it's got to be painful. And I think those are the kind of things that enable us to make it through tougher times. And that's not really fair because every time is tough. Every time has its own challenges. But when you hear about the Klan and all that, it is that. It is that unity. It is that, we all support each other, looking out for each other. So More things change, more things stay the same.
My mom disciplined me. Love you, Mom, is Bobby. But and my dad too, but in a funny way at a certain age. I remember, okay, it was me, my 2 cousins, and my brother. There was a hole in the wall. Nobody was gonna snitch on nobody. We just gotta all take the consequence. So they're like, meet me in the garage. We're like, all right. So we all get together, go to the garage. They're like burpees till we get tired. And we're over there working out, doing burpees. And I loved it because it's like we're getting better, but we're struggling because we're dealing with the consequence. So I like that idea. Probably use it in the future.
A quick a little fact that I recently learned when I was writing comedy jokes. It's kind of dark, but the slave masters would sell the children during holidays because everybody would be celebrating. So they knew that it would be the perfect time to do that because people were in good spirits.
Well, they did a whole lot of stuff to mess us up.
Yeah,
and just when knowing that, and this is when you know all of that, you be thinking like the little stuff you dealing with. Come on now, come on now. Can I give you another one? Help me now. I'm doing it. So, go ahead.
To add on to what he said, I seen something. I forgot where it was, but it said the same discipline that black mothers give as far as whipping their child came from slave masters beating them. Yeah. So I'm just like thinking about it. It's just like, how do we get rid of that cycle and try to talk to us? Have black mothers try to talk to us and figure out what's going on.
Fathers as well.
Fathers as well.
Absolutely.
So
talk about it.
I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not a parent. How would you do with your child instead of whooping them?
Get ready. Think about it.
That is
tell us the African way.
You see, I definitely growing up African. I got disciplined in school, like not just like that's legal. You see, you go to school, you mess up on your test, you're gonna get caned. You talk back, you're gonna get caned. Like this is foreign countries and Americans. Yeah. When I got back to America and people, and I saw the students talking back to the teacher, I was shocked. I'm like, you could do that, like because I'm like literally you know right. You true. And not to mention you had to pay for public school in Africa. Like you going to school, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get this education because we're paying for it. But as far as the discipline, I could see the problems with it, especially with the hypermasculinity, especially with black men. So it's kind of like, how do you get your point across? Actually the whole, just to me, I'm not gonna lie, just talking to a child and being gentle, I think for women, I understand not to be sexist, but I can understand from, the way you raise a woman compared to a young lady compared to a young man. But it's kind of hard. I definitely think we need to talk about, I was disciplined and I think I'm all right. I think I'm somewhat normal. But one size doesn't fit all. Some parents might take it too far and get very physical as far as disciplining, a child. And that child might be a little too sensitive or, we all get that, you'll be all right. Nobody died and stuff like that. But you really don't know what damage you're doing when you're doing physical discipline. But at the same time, the world. I
like the physical discipline.
Yeah, I'm like it's a tough world.
Yeah,
Is there a difference between discipline and abuse?
Yes.
I just want to throw that out there.
So it's good to bring that up because I remember when I was in middle school and there was a kid who was pretty much bullied at our school, and I can tell he was bullied by his mom too at home, and we were all just in the quad area, and then his mom came and slapped him in front of everybody and just embarrassed him and everything. So I knew from then on that just like the separation between discipline versus abuse, and that right there was abuse. That wasn't no type of discipline. It was a way to embarrass her son that way.
I had it happen when I was teaching a class, and the mother came in and did that to that student in front of me.
I thought they slapped you. I was like, what?
Now, I will tell you what it did to I'm not sure what it did to the student. Maybe he was embarrassed, was abuse, I guess. But to the other kids in there, and say, "Your mama crazy. I ain't never messing with her." No, your mama. I mean, it's funny how you looked at that. Now the kid, but the rest of them kids.
I remember when like I was disciplined by both my granny and my mom. So I had the southern discipline and then I had my mom's discipline. My mom would whoop me in front of everybody, but in a way where I did something wrong and she's been telling me, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and I would still do that. I would still steal the cereal box and then she's like, okay, well now I gotta whoop you.
Let me take a call. Then I'm gonna throw out one more. Man, he's been calling all the time because since he heard this topic, he jumped in. Hit him up, bring him up, line one. What's up, Khalid? What's up, man?
Hey, Garrett.
How you doing, bro? You like
I'm
this?
I'm doing pretty good.
You like this? Can I hear you?
Oh, I
Can you
love
hear
it.
me? Go ahead.
I was just listening to you guys talk about the dynamics of the grandmother and the grandparents.
Intergenerational, yeah.
I think,
Intergenerational. Go right ahead.
Right. And I was just thinking some things came up to me. Like, I remember when you guys hit all the granny stories and all the good stuff. But I remember when we wanted to know some information in the house, we had to have encyclopedias. We didn't have the internet.
That's true. I used to sell encyclopedias.
And you was gifted, and we was like in our neighborhood one of the only families that had it. Because, you know, my father knew the dynamics of that information because he didn't take advantage of education at a young age. So we had encyclopedias. So we wanted to look and see what animals look like. We go look it up in our encyclopedias. Now you get to go to the internet. And then the other thing about, you know, I grew up in the Black Power era. Mm-hmm. You know, brotherly love, you know, and that left. And one thing that my grandmother used to talk to us about, just like the African American work ethic, they always say, no disrespect that our Latino brothers, they come and work hard, but my grandmother and her brothers came from the South, and none of them was educated. And they came and all built homes from the ground up. Didn't have no schooling. All dropped out of high school before the 6th grade and came and built homes and started businesses. Yeah. So that work ethic, I don't see it from our people as though our older people came with it. We're a little bit behind, and that's something we got to work on.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn.
But that made me think about that
Thank
tonight.
You, man. Thank you.
Along with a lot of other things you guys were hitting on.
Thank you. Thanks for calling.
I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
I think what else changed was the music. And again, I remember with my granny again. So my dad is a DJ. He's still a DJ till this day. He used to work at Calskate Milpitas. I don't know if you guys remember Calskate Milpitas. You remember? Yeah. But yeah. So my dad was the DJ there. And so I would go there every Friday, every Saturday night. So I was like, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and I would listen to, like, you know, the 2000s hip hop and everything, and Ludacris. I remember the Chicken and Beer album, and I wanted that album.
Old and bold.
Yes. But I remember when 106 was playing, and I was in the car with my granny, and then I think Too Short was playing. It was Shake That Monkey, I think. And she was just like, I want to hear this devil music. I'll go back to the Christian station. And so she would always just ramble about how the music was today. Oh, it's all about, you know, girls suck this and doing drugs and da-da-da, do that. And
yeah, and music's a reflection of the society.
Well, here's the thing. In the days before, when that kind of stuff, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the sun. We would protect you from that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, in the old days, we had the Blue albums, right?
Red Fox.
That's what it did, Red Fox. And they didn't play those. You couldn't listen to those. You know, there's those you got to be grown. So you didn't know none of the stuff. We didn't want you to know. We knew it was coming. At least we try and prepare you for it. But you at 12 and 13 and 11, y'all ain't listening to that stuff.
And it wasn't on the radio.
Yeah. And it wasn't on the radio.
Well, now with the internet, it's just like you can't avoid it.
Exactly.
It was on the radio before then. I mean, but go ahead.
I was just having this conversation outside with my mother. We just talking about music, and older people be like, turn this music off. I don't want to hear that. It's saying too much. But y'all music be saying everything. Like, I need to cover my ears when I listen to y'all
That's
music.
a wonderful discussion.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
No, y'all music. Give me one song.
Before, let me just say something. One of the things about y'all's music, I
Here we
liked
go.
it. It did not denigrate a lady. I mean, it may have talked about how she looked and how she moved and all of that. Okay, it may have been suggestive, but it didn't call her B's and holes, and it wasn't talking about P's and Q's and R's and all of that. It did not slash and destroy and take away the humanity, the beauty of a woman. It didn't.
Ain't no
But
woman
see,
like the one I got.
I mean, I know it was suggestive. Absolutely. But it was nothing like, now, to call me, I can't even say it. No, I would rather talk to me that way back in my day. And see, and I can play some. No, you too young. I'm going to bring you some music from my day. And I'll play you some of your music.
Have you seen?
And you need to tell me which one you don't want the guys to. You want him to say this to you, or do you want him to say this to you?
That's good.
The topic tonight was suggested last week about different generations, so we can hear them speak. 20s, 30s, 40s, and teens. And then there are the elders with the silver sheen. We shared the structure of the family and the ones who's there. Grandma, grandpa, and all the kids are there, in their places, not with the grown folks, and they know where. Laughing, talking, dancing, and eating food, telling stories and being reminded about how much they grew. But today, the phone seems to interfere with that special time between uncles, cousins, and kids, playing games, running around outside, all kinds of fun types of things. Is that time over? They say it is. The teens say they represent the last childhood. It's not about being outside or playing games or getting to know new people or even asking their names. It's about checking the status on an IG account to see if that person is important enough to check out based on what social media says. But how reliable is that when oftentimes it's fake? So when we look at the generations and what lies between, not only is it time and wisdom, it's that social media thing. Being in a hurry, wanting things done now. But the process for the journey is needed to really get life done. So Street Soldiers want you to clearly see the importance of listening and talking and learning from one another. And please, stay alive and free. This is Lady Estelle asking you to consider this.
Tell me what you see when you look at me. Do you see another brother lost in these streets looking for his soul?
Trying to find my soul.
Or do you see another brother searching for lost souls in these streets? A street soldier.
Street soldier.
Here to help you get that chip off your shoulder, warm your colder days and sober your drunken ways, and find a way to help you get over these hurdles placed in our path.